further ado, let's start off on session 5, which is our first session of the day. The title for this session is Virtual Design Coordination. How effective is it as compared to face-to-face meeting? I now hand you over to Mr. Chaudhary for this panel discussion.
Hi, good morning everybody, and I'm glad to have such a panel on stage on a Friday morning. It's very difficult to have so many people of repute at the same place at the same time. So thanks for being here. And we've got a very interesting topic. I think the pandemic has taught us a lot of things, and the theme of IAM this year is revolving around the pandemic. And our topic for today session is actually on virtual design coordination. So there's one word in this topic itself which I actually hate, which is coordination, because that's something that I've been hearing morning, evening for the last 14 years, every day, sometimes even on Sundays. So coordination is something that as professionals we all should be doing. That's our job, right? But coming back to the topic, virtual design coordination is what we're talking about. And to begin with, I'd like to know a few anecdotes, because I think all of us on stage and most of us here today, we've done probably thousands of virtual meetings over the last 2 years. So just want to know a few anecdotes from your end, something maybe even embarrassing that may have happened. Just keep it light, and then we can actually get into the things. So Manish, can we start with you?
Sure. I hope everybody can hear. So as a project management consultant, design management was always a very important part. Pre-pandemic, whenever we started a project, design management is the first thing we start. With consultants coming from abroad, in various cities, project is located. So the online design coordination was always there. It's nothing which has transpired as a new thing in this current pandemic. Yes, after pandemic, it became necessary to have everything online and on Zoom meetings and Teams. But even before that, we used to have 15 days design workshops, design coordination. It was online or on calls mostly. So it is. We got used to it, because earlier it used to be a very small set of consultants on those calls. But then, as it became a necessity, everybody was on there. So I had actually on calls with 25 to 30 people connected on the same call. And at one point of time, it's very difficult to even. When we started, actually, it was very difficult to even put any discipline or any sequence to those calls. It took us at least a couple of months to say, okay, now let's have an agenda, let's try and only focus on those issues, and then.
Anything funny that may have happened over so many of these calls?
It is funny. People have fallen off chairs. I have dogs barking and the wife calling out for the husbands. It's normal. Whatever you have seen on YouTube, we have seen on those calls, right?
All right, fantastic. So Rimpesh, do you want to take this next?
Yes, for sure. So I was in the epicenter of pandemic. So I was design and project manager for Kumbh Haridwar, whereas there was nothing virtual about it. I think to shift into a virtual platform, it's driven by the end user, stakeholder you're serving, and possibly the design stage you are in the project. What I felt is initial, possibly at the concept stages or schematic stages, a hybrid model is a better way, wherein people would give you better iterations when you're brainstorming for the project. But as you go through the life cycle of the project, you're into schematic, detailed design, so construction stages, a virtual model is still okay, wherein your expectations for the project are set nicely. But for a project like Kumbh, my 22 boys were sitting in Haridwar in the command center, and the end user wouldn't allow us to work from home. So even the planning was done in person. So my take is only that it's more driven by the team you have on the project and possibly the stakeholder of the project. you serving. So private sector is still, I guess, we still have an option of online sessions and discussions with the client, but most of the government sector is still not open to the online platform. And thirdly, the hard work the team puts in for the possibly developing the concepts, it's not relayed well if it's not in person at the concept stage. And then this 2 years also has taught us the digital fatigue and digital loneliness, and of course death by webinars.
Yeah.
So this 2 years has given us a lot of new vocabulary also for the projects, but still I think it's an evolving thing. Over the years we'll have better online platforms to convey what we're trying to say, and a lot gets lost in translation online. That's my take on possibly.
And any anecdotes that may have happened? I'm sure you've done virtual meetings also.
You ask Akhada to wear mask, so forget about getting on system. They won't even get on screen with you.
Sure. Okay. Alright. Interesting. So, Prem, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so honestly, if you ask me, there's only so much you can do virtually. I'll give a classic example. For example, if you're doing an ID presentation, guest room presentation per se, I really don't know what is the resolution of your screen. If I'm trying to portray or show you a design, how will it show you on your screen, the projector at the meeting of the end user? It's always better to have a look and feel in terms of interior designs and finishes.
Sure.
If you ask me personally, I don't endorse virtual sessions at all.
Yeah.
And I have done the least amount of virtual sessions personally. I've traveled a lot during pandemic. My first day after first lockdown was June 8th. After second lockdown was July. So I've traveled a lot during pandemic.
Wow. Great. And Sanjay sir, how about you?
It works in a very limited way. I mean, only for certain level of presentations and discussions. Otherwise, it's best to, actually, what Prem said is absolutely right, that you have to feel the materials, you have to discuss colors.
Basically, you open the hard prints and
Yes.
start coordinating in person, right?
That's much better.
That's better. How about you, Mundan?
Body language,
Yeah.
all that really matters a lot.
So it's pros and cons. I mean, I think it's still evolving, and the pandemic has actually kind of fast-tracked that evolution process. So maybe something that we would have seen in the next 10 years, we are looking at it, today because of the pandemic. But then I believe it will happen eventually, and I would look at it as a tool, to make things faster. It's also kind of cost effective in a way, because there are certain things which we could do over a video call where a meeting on site or a travel is not required. But then I do agree with Prem. There are many things which we can accomplish, sitting face to face, and like what Sanjay did mention, on a call, I would say on the 10 participants, 1 or 2 are on video, rest of them are muted with their videos off. So you really don't get to understand the real expressions. The person is saying, yes, I do agree, but then does he really mean that? Those giggles or the eye rolls or things like those, which really reflect what he really does mean is not observed. And then I think it's a combination. We have to look at the positive aspects, and we have done. We have opened properties without being on the site. We opened a property in the Maldives 2 years back. At that time, any person from India was banned to be there. But then we have done virtual inspections, and it was really tiring, because you are on the screen for like good 3-4 hours, running through each and every areas, fire life safety inspections. We've done all of that. So it's a great tool. It will only evolve, and I would say it would get better.
Fantastic. But I think everybody sidestepped the anecdote bit. So yeah, it's okay for you to share if you want to, because for me, there's been so many funny things that have happened. I had my mom bring food to me while there's a meeting going on, right? And then, people at that age, they're a bit curious, like what's happening on an online meeting, so they would like to actually, lean in and things like that. So, great. So for you, Sanjay ji, like, we've done so many meetings, face to face. I mean, I remember those days, Saturdays at Holiday in Chadra, and, we used to spend days on it. So, I mean, I'd love to do that online if I could, but, do you think it's possible to actually coordinate services, structure, the architecture, everything, ID, just on the design part, on the drawing part?
In a limited way. Yes, it is definitely possible. It does save time, effort, energy, cost, everything. Yes, no doubt about that. But only to a certain extent. Your heart and soul is when you are meeting one to one, together. Some parts you can do. No worries about it.
Basically, body language and feeding off each other's energy and being in person. Yeah. That's what leads to a proper coordinator.
Yes, your mind actually truly works. When you are actually there at the site, always with the team, and you're totally involved in the project.
But is it possible to do that? I think the topic is it possible to actually?
It is happening. It is definitely happening. But
in terms of
yes, if you have no better option, definitely something is better than nothing.
Fantastic.
Yes.
How about you, Rimpesh?
If given a choice, I would say face-to-face is the best way to possibly evolve the design. And post-schematic, if you could take it on an online platform where the team is tuned to what the project expectation is set right, then of course online is easier and faster. But then initial stages, personally, it has to be, I guess, face-to-face.
Maybe.
It is possible. I'll give another example. During the first lockdown days, I had to do a review of a resort in Middle East. And it was a huge, expansive resort, 400 plus keys. And the owners asked us to do an online review. And it took us 6 days, 3 to 4 hours every day to finish the review. Because the person had to, you have to plan an agenda, what we need to cover on the day. The person used to be on a webcam and take us through all the areas. It is not possible, but it is tedious entirely.
It's tedious. Manish?
No, I take it from a design management perspective. Like we are now right now starting a project in Bhutan, which is a high-end luxury project. Now, even if you appoint an interior designer or an architect now, he can't even start thinking about the design unless he sees the site. And Bhutan is now from 14 days and bring down their quarantine to 5 days. Which means that principal designer of a very large international firm is to go to Bhutan and first wait 5 days and then. So those things cannot be replicated. Nobody, no client, no project manager, no brand would like that to happen, right? So there are few items, there are few areas where a man-to-man interaction, like construction cannot be done online. Construction happens on site, right? People are there, they're constructing, engineers. So it's equally important for the designers and the brand technical team to see what's happening on the site. But at the same time, structure, MEP, when architecture is frozen, structure MEP up to a very large extent can be done on drawings, right? And post that it goes. But when it comes to ID, finishes, materials,
so the non-creative part, you mean to say, can happen.
The engineering part of it, the engineering part of it can be done online, but anything which is beyond engineering, because you can feel.
I definitely agree. I think a lot of coordination can do happen virtually, but obviously, like what you did mention about the creative aspects. I mean, when you have the architect, the interior designer, the landscape designer, the lighting designer, when they are on a site together, I think it's a very different, I would say, scale of coordination. And it's not about, those 4 hours in a meeting room, but then what happens before the meeting and what happens post the meeting. Because many of the decisions which you are not able to achieve during a coordination workshop, at your dinner and drink session, that's where you sit down with the ownership, with the designers, and we are able to then resolve those differences.
But I think for me personally, I think the collaborative effort actually only comes out, when you're meeting in person. Because I mean, the fact that we're doing IIM after 2 years and there's a big audience, I mean, that itself is so encouraging because we've been locked in, cooped up, and then, so I think human beings need to socialize, they need to meet each other, and when it comes to design and coordination, I also agree that, we should do it in person more often than not. So, in terms of time, has the pandemic taught us that we can be a little more efficient with our time with these virtual meetings, or have we learned something, some elements, or if, say for example, work from home has been a big thing. I think now every company that's here has an enablement for work from home. I mean, they've got their IT systems in place, they've got the connectivity in place. So do you think that would overall change the industry going forward?
Absolutely. I think, I would say 10 years back, nobody would have believed that I'm going to buy a sandwich using my phone, right? I mean, now we are doing it. So technology is here to stay, and we have to only adapt ourselves and utilize it, for our own benefit. So, sure,
So
absolutely.
definitely it's making us more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, it is. I agree with Prem that the virtual meetings are actually more time consuming than a face to face. So what you can achieve in 2 days, maybe you will need 5 or 10 days to do when you're trying to resolve those virtually. So that's where the efficiency does come in. But when we used to do online coordination before the pandemic, it was limited to showing the drawings on a thing and talking. During the pandemic, we learned that there is a app which you can actually start marking on those screen drawings, right? I have seen architects in India design doing 3Ds on those.
Yeah.
So that's something which is new, and I'm sure it's going to get used more and more as we go forward. People are going to take advantage of those tools.
Yeah.
Recording of those meetings, getting those automatic minutes out of those meetings is something we knew that it existed, but we never felt the need to do it.
Right.
Also, just to add to that, actually, so pandemic time, I mean, everybody was stuck at their homes. I mean, we had a property, a beautiful resort in Shimla, and obviously, I mean, fortunately, the design consultants had already visited the site. So, I mean, we sat down, we had a discussion with the ownership. I had never met the owners in person, nor had I met some of the consultants. Many of them I knew because I worked with them before. But then we did utilize all that time period during the pandemic at our homes, to conduct those meetings, and we were able to freeze the design to an extent where now the design is all closed. Now it's only construction that has to happen. So, I mean, it's got its own advantages and benefits.
So basically, we've been able to utilize the time when we were logged in to
Absolutely.
develop something in the future, right?
Yeah, those virtual meetings, the Zoom calls, the Microsoft Teams, I'm sure there will be more apps now, which so they will be of
So it will
advantage to us.
definitely be a tool in our kitty as designers, as brands to put projects together.
Yeah, so of the 10 meetings, I would say maybe I could do 7 meetings online, but then I definitely need those 3 meetings to make those final decisions in person. Yeah.
No, after pandemic, 2 months were total lockdown, nothing was happening. But in July 2020, sites started working.
Right.
People came back on site. When that came in, the pressure increased on the design managers and the consultants to start delivering those designs virtually. So that happened, and it successfully happened. Actually, one of the hotels opened in May 2021.
Wow.
So yeah, we adopt, as we said yesterday. We got to it. Virtual meetings, high definition cameras, photographs started helping in videos, started helping in this.
Prem, how about you?
Coming back to your question on work from home and work from office, honestly, for people on this day, it doesn't matter. We work from airport lounges and the hotel rooms because we travel 4 days, 5 days a week. So it doesn't matter actually.
True. Rupesh, how about you?
I think online platform reduces your innovation. as a team also, if you have say 10 different consultants or stakeholders sitting on an online platform, somewhere it restricts your brainstorming also, and people look at closure very fast for a solution. So you won't innovate much for a problem which is thrown at you. Maybe it is very nascent for everybody to be on interacting online for the projects, and pandemic threw it as you were not given a choice to possibly go out and have face-to-face meetings. And as I say, it's an evolving platform. Maybe in another 5 years, you'll have better tools which are equipped to the industry. Because right now, I've had but more than 100 online sessions in 2 years. Every time I have to download a new app. So my laptop is filled with TeamViewer, Zoom, I don't know how many. And so if you have more than 10, 15 parties sitting across, your proficiency in each platform is very different. When you get used to one platform, tomorrow they say, no, get on Teams. So then you download it, and then so we didn't get time to be proficient in a lot of platforms we've been using these 2 years. It was more forced upon us. Maybe next 2, 3, 5 years, somebody puts mind to projects wherein because we are not ID driven, so for us it's just a tool to what we do and express. Maybe it will evolve better as a software or a platform.
Maybe Elon Musk can buy out some other company and help the construction industry.
You never know. And more than that, see, now for everybody it's evolving in all the ways, not just platform, even skill set. Possibly today it's available, everything is available in India. So, of course, world is getting smaller as we say, but then so is the intellect also.
Right.
So, but then end of the day, hybrid would work. That's a preference. But
So it's here to stay then? So these virtual meetings and online work from home. I think it's
see,
here to stay.
you don't know. See, today I think there are 1,000 cases up. So tomorrow, if it's 5,000, we are again back home.
So we should congratulate the team that they did this event.
Of course, yes.
On the time. Sanjay sir, how about you?
Yeah, see, it's hybrid is the only way forward as of now. I mean, you go back to virtual meetings and work from home only if you are unable to, you are imposed that restriction. Not very many people would do it willingly, or preferred way forward. No.
And I must say, I've seen Anil sir. I think he's technologically much more advanced than me over the pandemic for sure. Because he was doodling when I was figuring out these apps. And I've also had a very embarrassing moment where I bought this Zoom thing because it was official and all of that, and I kept sending my Microsoft clients a Zoom invite, and then they had to actually tell me, we can't get onto Zoom. Let me send you a Teams invite. These kind of things have also happened. So, but going back to the topic again, in terms of design coordination again, right? Now, MEP, we all know that it's been a complete pain from a coordination perspective for everybody, including me. But now that BIM platforms are available and everything is getting connected, do you think it's possible to do a lot of the MEP design work or structural design work still, and coordinate that between architects and engineers, for example, and in what proportion?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about BIM, and BIM is something which we are right now very aggressive. In fact, we were unlucky that in 2019, we almost were about to implement BIM on a very large commercial project in Dhaka. The client was aligned, we had a presentation, we had a BIM execution plan in place, and then the pandemic struck. But BIM is the future, if you really ask me, at least between architecture and MEP. It gives you much more clarity and much more, in much less time. You really don't need to sit on and interpret your 2D drawings and start. But it will need to come into the architects and designers system, because right now it's an additional cost as well.
True.
So it's not easy to implement, especially in India where cost of construction as compared to any other developed markets is much less. Right? So BIM is the answer. And not only for design management. In fact, we want to implement BIM for scheduling and cost also. Because from BIM 3D you can actually go to BIM 4D and 5D, where 4D helps you in getting the schedules done, tracking your schedules on the 3D model, and 5D obviously each and every equipment, each and every element of that building can be given a quantity and a rate
Right.
to control the cost.
Complete 360.
Complete 360. And in fact, 60 is something which a facility planner has it. So once we have done everything, the 60 is for the facility planner to actually go and click on a certain pipe and understand where it is going and how it is.
Prem, to you, in terms of creativity, I mean, hospitality needs a lot of creativity because every hotel is unique and every owner wants a bespoke hotel. So, do you think all this technology is actually pigeonholing us into as designers, maybe the architects, or what's your take on that as a designer?
Yeah, we have to come out of that, our nutshell, to think out of the box. And hospitality industry itself is always late in adopting technology. Forget the creativity. So blending creativity and technology is a challenge for all of us.
And all these these apps and all these online and technology on the design front, especially, does that take away from the creativity that one might bring to the table otherwise?
No, not really.
So they complement each other.
How we adapt to it.
What's your take?
I think it's a great tool. Look at renderings. I mean that's again technology, right? I mean photorealistic rendering. So making an investor understand this is what he will be spending his money into. This will be the final product. And talking about BIM, amazing tool. We opened a beautiful JW in Bangalore, beautiful resort. The actual work started last year in around April. We were able to open the property around this year in March, and one of the biggest credit goes to BIM, and it was modeled obviously with the real data. It was utilized very well, and the same ownership is using it, with all its, I would say, for our mega project which is happening in Delhi. So obviously, I think it's a great tool, and I think if we use it, it will be of advantage to us. You get accurate data in terms of your quantities of what you require, rather than estimates and assumptions. And a lot of coordination, if that can happen virtually, there's less headache on site. So it's a great tool, and it's here to stay, and we should take advantage of it. Yeah.
So it's all about awareness. Awareness to the owners, how the model will help, and also the insistence from all of us.
Exactly.
We should insist that no, let's do this project on them.
Yeah, because
How
I
will
think,
it help the
I think it's
project
happening
overall?
as we speak globally. So why not in India? And we have to sooner than later adopt this technology. So Ritesh, what's your thought on this?
See, as I say, it's an evolving thing. So maybe there's no unified solution to all the problems right now in terms of coordination. So maybe another 2, 3, 5 years we have a single platform wherein the client is exposed to what his expectations is met, and so are consultants on this side. So at least the language has to be one.
Right.
And what we come out as a solution or what we propose as a design is a tangible thing. Eventually it's all brick and mortar, and eventually it has to translate into some physical form. So when it comes to physical form, there's no alternate to face-to-face experience. Touch and feel is important for us. Right now, a lot is being lost in translation, as we say. But then, yes, that's the future. Slowly, the interaction would be online, but then there has to be a good platform which help as project managers to possibly do the coordination offline.
And also control costs, because I think post-pandemic costs have become very important.
See, there was no choice, so this happened. So not that our client says no, now that you're not going to come, so your fees is less. So it hasn't. Good part is it hasn't translated into cost cutting on our fee of the consultant, thankfully.
Luckily.
Yeah. So everybody expects you in person. Of course, if there's no choice, then we look for an alternate to make do with it.
Right.
It's not a first option for any of us to possibly look for an online coordination meeting sort of platform.
So, Jesse, how about you on this point?
Regarding BIM, right? BIM,
The whole thing, I mean,
BIM is the
technology
way forward
basically.
for a large scale projects, and slowly it will filter down to all medium level projects all over. As of now, the awareness and adaptability is very, very limited, even with consultants. There are very few consultants who are sharing their data on BIM to each other. So then how do you expect then the next level of shop drawings and contractors to adopt to that? So that skill set is still, will take time to filter in.
Yeah, so we've begun
Very-
a journey because I think the market is also demanding that.
Yes.
It's begun to demand
people,
that.
it has to top down.
It has to be a top-down approach.
Yeah, it has to be top down.
Absolutely. So, Mandar, I mean, do you think that the pandemic has changed how you're viewing hotels? From a design perspective, anything that's changed with Marriott, for example?
When we design a hotel, it's designed for the next, kind of 15 years at least. I mean, that's where the interior design does stay. Obviously, the overall space planning and the architecture stays for 50, 60, 100 years, right? Now, should I do a quick change to all of that? And will that change be relevant for the next, 5 years or 15 years? So I had to take a call. So pandemic, definitely those are, I would say, smaller adaptations for a very short term. But for a long term is, I'm designing for a, much more larger lifespan of that project. So I don't think so it will impact that much. Obviously, but then, technology and safety and hygiene, those are certain things which are now looked at in more detail than, they were before. Yeah.
Prem, how about you on this?
So yeah, as I agree with Mandar, not really significant changes in terms of architecture. As it is, we always insist on open spaces, alfresco dining spaces for ADTs. COVID has not got any major changes to be done in architecture. Of course, on MEP front, we're looking at indoor air quality and air conditioning systems. There are a few alterations.
So you agree that it's in the air?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I have one friend who agrees.
But I think it's not only in our cities the kind of pollution now we are having. You anyways need the air quality monitors. You always needed those. So pandemic is also one of the reasons, but for all Bombay's, Delhi's, Gurgaon's, you need to maintain air quality as well as air conditioning.
Okay.
See, it's what you do with the information.
Now, have you changed anything around, like in your processes, post-pandemic, or?
See, it is a one-off situation where we were just put into it. So, of course, we're doing a lot of things in a knee-jerk reaction to all the planning also. But let's see if it stays longer, then of course there will be a lot of changes in the standards also in what we do in everything. But I think it's maybe another 6 months, a year, it might be gone. Fingers crossed. So
Let's hope it's
we
gone.
might.
Sanjay, sir, how about you?
From construction management side, nothing much has changed really.
But managing people on site, because with the masks and Ramesh spoke about the Akhada guys and stuff too. So have you had those challenges in your projects? Like while execution, have the workers been wearing masks? Have they been following protocol on sites and things like that?
Very difficult to impose and implement. You do have protocols and standard operating procedures, but they are just kept aside and people don't follow.
We get bypassed,
Yeah.
like most NAPs. So, what's your thought is
No, on site, yes, you can't expect a worker to work with a mask on. It doesn't happen. You can't even walk a site with a full mask on. If you're walking a 300 room site, you can't walk. But at the same time, the protocol is that now vaccination has taken a very good stance in India, so we make sure that all the workers are vaccinated. Yeah. We are trying to get them. If they are not, we have put camps on sites and get those vaccinated for our clients. Hygiene maintenance and staggered lunch timings. Those kinds of measures have actually helped to work during pandemic. Now sites are more or less back to normal, and most of our sites with 100% supervisors and workers vaccinated.
So there's a level of comfort then.
At least there's a risk mitigation there.
Fantastic. So guys, we have, I think, a few more minutes. So final thoughts, starting with you, Mandar, on the topic.
My take is, the technology is obviously here to stay. We have to the sooner we adapt to it and use it to our benefit. That's what I would say.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. Any?
Your technology definitely will be there, and it needs to be utilized to make ourselves more efficient. We have already touched upon cost. Cost has become a challenge, but technology actually helps us in optimizing those costs as well. I'm not talking about consultant costs, as an overall
Project
right? Overall project costs. Like low voltage, there was a good IT session yesterday. I think it's in next 2, 3, 4 years. I think we will lose a lot of low voltage cabling, and everything will be on wireless systems, which includes fire alarm systems and panels. So those technologies are coming. And in terms of coordination, I think Zoom, Teams is going to be. Whoever uses Microsoft knows how to use Teams now properly.
Prem, final thoughts?
Also, our reliability on infrastructure for technology is very important, particularly in 2-tier cities, 3-tier cities. You don't even get bandwidth. How do you expect site people to get on calls and coordinate virtual coordination? That also has to be looked into.
You need the infrastructure to be able to plug in.
Exactly.
And any other thoughts on the pandemic, just as a closing thing? Anything that you've learned?
All said. We learned a lot.
Did you learn how to cook though?
Yeah.
Did you learn how
Yes,
to cook?
I did.
in the pandemic? I've been seeing those posts. Rupesh, final thoughts?
My take is to change course of how we've been doing things all these years. We shouldn't base it on what has happened in these 2 years. Of course, technology is an integrated part in what we do in our lives, and it's an evolving thing. And of course, you can't do without technology in any of your fields. So you have to live with it. But then there's no need to change course in how things have been done prior to 2 years of minus the pandemic. And I think things would get normal, and we'll get used to, of course, working online also. People have got used to possibly meeting online. Even 2 years prior, if you tell a client, let's have an online meeting, he would maybe change the consultant. So today he's more receptive to the idea. Find you save time and resources also in having an online meeting. There are more meaningful meetings. Agendas are set prior. We don't get on an online meeting unless we are told what we're going to discuss. So we have a more meaningful discussion. Time is utilized better.
Structured.
Yes, and I guess we'll have to give time to when everybody adopts to this thing. But there's no two ways to a face-to-face interface in a project. So I think hybrid is the way forward with little better tools in years to come.
And just a final thoughts?
Yeah, same here. Hybrid is the way forward, and pandemic has helped you to plan better now. Foresee and be ready for the next wave. Think about
for the next big thing.
Yeah, or next big. Be ready. Just prepare for it.
Great. I think the panel agrees, Toto, then that yeah, you have got.
One last thing. So if we don't travel, how can we expect others to travel?
Yeah.
And how will our industry get supported?
Exactly. Yeah. That's a key takeaway. Thank you.
So we're opening up to questions. what is more productive, meeting of the architects, landscape, interior designers in a conference room or followed by a drink session?
In a conference room.
Followed by a drink session.
In the conference room, followed by
Followed by
drinks.
this.
No, so even I had this one point that in
Definitely, I mean, workshop in the meeting room. I mean, a lot of things get discussed, creative ideas. On the evening sessions, what can get resolved are those differences. Sometimes.
So I just had a small point. In 1992, I walked into studio with a CAD drawing printed out. Satish Grover was my prof, and he proceeded to rip me apart saying, "You will never be able to design on a computer." I don't think any of us have a drawing board anymore in our offices, and we're all on the computer, so maybe that's the way we go. There's a question by the lady over there.
Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I would like to congratulate Mr. Kaul for such an event. Thank you so much, sir, for hosting all of us. My question is on a lighter note. As Mr. Thakur just earlier mentioned, that all of you, I'm sure, must be traveling 4-5 days in a week. So when we all were locked down, when we all were in our homes during the lockdown, what is one activity which you all gentlemen have learned and enjoyed the most at home? So I'm sure we all work from home, but did you all work at home during the lockdown? That's my question.
So I jokingly used to say that I work for BJP. Bartan Jadu Pocha.
I mean, I would want to know all of you what you all had different kind of activities during the lockdown.
I think pandemic did give us a lot of time to spend with the family, which was not possible before pandemic. Yes, after a while it becomes too much, so we had to control that.
So, too much for you or for your wife?
We can call it 3 much. But yeah, it could give us time to catch up on some movies, some series, those things. Netflix became so popular during pandemic. Right? It was not,
I think
not as popular.
Netflix is hoping for the pandemic to revive
Revive,
itself
yes.
because they're losing business now. Great.
Morning, and thank you. It's been a wonderful session. Thank you, Mr. Sharma, Mr. Kaul, for having all of us here. So my question is related with, it starts first with, the technological innovation that has come into the business and how it's integrated into the systems and helping in construction management, man management, and the throughput of it towards the project implementation. My question is basically asking you, in that segmentation of the utilization of technology, which can be fairly expensive to first procure and then to implement, what are the different segments that you would, as the experts in construction activity, in technology, be able to recommend to owners to justify their ROI towards the end result of the project, that it's more viable to the owners? There are such technologies, and would you pitch and say, look, this is the best, but the implementation is maybe 80%, because most technologies that I've worked with, nobody works more than 50% on any technology. Even the phones that we use, they are right up there, but we use maybe 20% of their power. So in that implementation, we find that a cost factor, an implementation factor, and an actual utilization factor on the shop floor to drive the ROI back to the owner. How would you segment that and just throw some light on it as the experts? Thank you.
Should I? Okay. So talking about technology, I mean, one of the tools for, I would say, design coordination is BIM. So, and talking about ROI or talking about construction, I mean, the sooner I get the project completed, I start making money. So it's all about how do I safeguard that time, and time is obviously money, right? So I save on my construction costs. And in India, if you talk about India, I mean, all of our projects overrun because various different reasons. So we are using BIM on one of our projects, wherein all of that coordination happens virtually. the quantities are more accurate. Everything, earlier on, there is a HVAC consultant who's prepared a set of drawings. There is a, electrical consultant who's prepared another set of drawings. There is the architect with his, master plan. And sometimes when we are in meetings, they're all on different versions, right? So if you have one tool wherein all that information is put down together, and I can look at where things are going wrong. For example, there is a wall here, maybe the kitchen consultant is not aware of, but then on that platform, on the BIM, I'm able to look at it right there. So I would say in other parts of the world, the consultants have evolved and they are using BIM within their offices. Here in India, what we are trying to do is we are adding a consultant who is a BIM consultant, who is gathering information from all these parties and putting down together. But then I think it also works. And it's a great idea because we are at least, putting those efforts to try to, coordinate that. So by doing so, we are saving a lot of, I would say, time. And on site, we see a lot of lesser mistakes, I would say. And one of our biggest challenge when it comes to cost, I would say, is breaking a wall or redoing all of that. So that all can be avoided. So you do faster construction, lesser I would say reconstruction on site, and you are able to achieve your targets faster.
Munra, we have evolved too. Now you don't need a third party consultant for your creativity.
Perfect.
And just one point to what you made, sir. I think post-pandemic, if you look at technology, indoor air quality, I strongly believe, needs a relook, not only in hospitality, but airports, malls, everywhere. We spend so much of time indoors, with the heat outside, I don't think there will be anybody outside in Delhi today, hardly, because of, there's a heat wave going on. So, we're spending so much of time indoors, we must look at indoor air quality, not only filtration and carbon dioxide from an MEP perspective, but also pathogen protection and other elements also.
So I think that's it for the questions. You'll have to give away a prize of who had the best question.
I think we should give it to the lady. It was it went.
Why don't you come up and collect your prize? And these prizes are by Eternia, who's our platinum sponsor.